one year. Y'all are so funny. Y'all are hilarious. Oh my gosh.
Well, welcome to those of you who may have been tuned in to watch this particular episode of Luke 10 Live or Relational Revolution Live. This is the Mission Circle. You probably have heard, if you've been watching some of these episodes, you've heard the language of circles before. These are kind of the groups that we have. That is how we kind of do our internal work. Tony, how many circles do we have? Do you have any idea? Put you on the spot.
6, I think.
Like 9 or 10.
9.
I think that's right.
Something like that. Yeah.
Wow.
So, and by this being the mission circle, it's not like missions like in foreign mission, but it's the mission of Luke 10. So our job is to pay attention to the mission and to deal with things that relate to that. So anything else, Tony, you'd like to say by way of introduction to this particular group? Oh, I'm the facilitator of this group. You'll notice different people are facilitating different circles. So I end up being the facilitator here. What else would you like to say about this?
Just that in this whole Relational Revolution Live event of the last 4 days, if you haven't tuned in yet, we're modeling and we are inviting. We're modeling the value shifts for practicing church as heart-to-heart connection. And if you don't know what those value shifts are, we haven't said them because we've written about them in our book, Relational Revolution. So go get the book and you'll know what the 5 shifts are. And then we're inviting people to join us, either to train with us, to join this crazy global community that is coming together, networking together, by training with us or by funding the revolution, the movement that we're involved in. And so you'll see opportunities to give on lk10.com/live if you go there, or our website, lk10.com, if you go there. And we are in, as John said, the mission circle. I guess another word for that would be oversight circle. Sometimes we call it the oversight organization, mission circle. Yeah. And
ordinarily, Kent Smith would be here with us. He has another commitment that he had this morning. One other thing I want to say about that is, having been a pastor, having been sort of on the inside of lots of churches as a pastor and as an elder, as they say, where the sausage is made. It isn't always a pretty sight in some churches and some organizations. One of the things I appreciate about Luke 10 is that we have a very, very definite, sort of spelled out process of decision making, of governance, which is there's structure, but it also allows us to implement our 2 values. So even in the midst of this structure, we're connecting on a heart level with each other and with Jesus. And so I really appreciate that a lot. Tony just left. I must have offended her.
I'm here.
Oh, you're here. Okay, I'm sorry. So what we always do is we start with appreciation stories. And so we'll do that. And probably a good idea to introduce ourselves too, since not everybody watching might know who we are. So who's just like bursting with an appreciation story you'd like to start us off with? Anybody have one? Zachary, go for it, man.
It's funny because I didn't have one.
Who are you? Where are you?
Yeah, I'm Zach LaValle. I live in Western Massachusetts, and that's it. I have a big old family, 5 kids, and a lovely wife, and I help Luke 10 with a bunch of things: communications, operations, all kinds of things.
Yep.
I just hop around the organization and butt in on conversations. Yeah, that's me. You want me to go straight in appreciation? Or
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, cool. Yeah, this is an old one. This is one of my first appreciation stories, and for some reason it just came back, so I'm gonna share it. First one, when you guys taught me this in like 2019. My son Emery he must have been like 4, and he was 4 or 5, and we were doing bedtime story. We were reading Bad Kitty, and Bad Kitty is about the cat that eats all these things in the house, and then at the end he eats good things, and they're alphabetized. So we were reading it, and Emery stopped. He was starting to learn reading a little bit, so just like on his own, and we got to the word beets. It was like a picture of a beet, like the root vegetable, and he went he went beet, and I went, and he went,
He's reading.
and we, because it's like it's probably the E, like he said the letters, but kind of like turned it so like B E. And so we were both like jumping up and down, and he's got these big old dimples and these big brown eyes, and so it was just like just seeing him, I was proud, and seeing his excitement and surprise, I was excited and surprised. So yeah, I just felt overjoyed, happy, proud, excited, surprised, and yeah, it was like in my body, it was like it was just like this burst of electricity. Like I had to jump and like embody it. We were jumping and laughing. Just like big laughs in my chest, my throat, and both just big smiles on our face. We both lit up. So it's still one of my main stories. I often go back to. I have like titles of the appreciation stories from the past several years. But yeah, so that's mine. I'm in.
That's sort of like a eureka moment. That's one of my favorite words, which in the Greek means I found it. And,
oh, really?
you know the story? So it's real quick, I'll tell it to you. I love this story. I think it's Archimedes, and he's trying to figure out how do you calculate the mass of an object? You know, he's like a scientist, and he can't figure it out. And one day he's in the bath. This is supposedly true. He's in the bathtub, and he notices that when he gets in the bath, the water level rises. And he realizes that's the way that you can calculate the mass of any object. And he's so excited about that he yells out, Eureka, which literally means I found it, and supposedly jumps out of the tub and runs down the street naked, yelling Eureka. So it's sort of the same idea of what you're talking about there. So I love those Eureka moments.
That was actually the next part of the story about the beets, is that Emery and I just ran down the street, like we forgot our clothes and we were just running.
Yeah. I love it. Fantastic. Zach, who would you like to have go next on Appreciation Story?
Shannon, who's under me? I don't know if she's under you. Go ahead, Shannon.
Thanks, guys. It's fun to be here with you. Yeah, my appreciation has a good connection to Zach's because it involves Zach and it also involves going back to an old story. So recently I noticed that maybe I haven't been spending a lot of time just when I'm not in these circles practicing appreciation, and I really need to right now. It's just a hard season. So I thought, well, I'll go back to, early on, I did what all good students do, and I made a list of titles in a notes file on my phone, and I had a little file of photos in my camera roll of appreciation, stories. And I thought, man, I haven't looked at that in a really long time. I should probably add some more photos to that file and stuff. So I think it was Sunday afternoon. I was drinking some more coffee and sitting in my living room, and I'm feeling all cozy with a blanket and just going through the titles and really feeling, doing what we do, going back to the memories and feeling them and looking at photos. And then a couple of them I thought, I think Zach would really appreciate this. I can't remember. I think it was Elton John concert photo. And so I texted to Zach, and he's texting me back, with good feelings and good questions. And so I was noticing that all of the things that we train here to do, like actually doing the appreciation work, actually sitting and feeling it in my body, sharing the joy with somebody else, and then telling someone else that you shared the joy with someone else. It was just really fun because it's all true what we, what these practices that we try to do. So that was last Sunday, and it was fun because it made all those old appreciation stories that had been filed like come back to the present right now. And I was feeling just part of something bigger, feeling part of our community, feeling seen by the Lord, who just was smiling on me, remembering all of those good things. And then I also took some time to add some new photos to my little file and thought about those. So I guess I'm appreciating appreciation. I mean,
Cultivating joy.
yeah, exactly.
I love the idea of using photos to do that. That is such a powerful tool.
Yeah, it really is.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, you get to pick who's next.
Okay, I'm going with Tony.
Okay.
I am going to share a story. Shannon was there. It was yesterday. And I just had some time on the porch with my coffee, reliving it. So I honestly had forgotten about it already this morning. So I'm glad that I have this habit of sitting on the porch and coffee because it just comes straight there. I was in my leader team yesterday, and we are working through Dr. Lehman's training, the basic Emmanuel training approach. And so when we meet, we do our appreciation stories. We just do a reaction round to the material, and then we practice. And I was the guinea pig yesterday, and Marty was facilitating. And the concept that Dr. Lehman was introducing yesterday was starting with a memory where you've already experienced God's presence. And I realized that I usually start in new memories, like new appreciation stories, or just appreciation stories where I haven't found his presence yet. Like that's typically my practice because I don't know, I just like discovering him in new places, maybe. And so I realized, very rarely do I actually go to a memory where he has been there and like deepen it. And so, I mean, I have a like an abiding place in my imagination where I can go like that and he's there, right? So that's where I kind of interact with him normally, but just playing in appreciation memories, I don't do that. So we decided I would play in an appreciation memory yesterday, and wow, it undid me. So I went back to a memory in Uruguay from 10 years ago, and I'm going to try to do this in 2 minutes, first time telling this. And I had been depleted and exhausted, and Jesus had shown up and just literally like breathed energy into my body. And so I was remembering that memory and then reconnected with him. How do you feel about me today, about being in this memory today? I've been doing some coaching with myself and my leadership skills the last few months, and I present as a Black Jaguar. Some of you are more familiar with the story than others. John knows my Black Jaguar. Anyway, and my Black Jaguar comes into this memory from 10 years ago, and Jesus as a lion comes too. So Jesus and me are right there. He's in front of me, breathing into me. On one side's the lion, on one side's the jaguar, actually. And they're all there. And I just kind of like start crying and losing it because I feel, I don't even know what I'm feeling. It's like there's this, I felt like it was integrative. There was something happening. So I asked Jesus, about it. And it was so weird. He was revealing to me how 10 years ago, I didn't know myself as well as I know myself now. And I also didn't know how to rest. And it was really 12 years ago when I look back now at the calendar. But that was the beginning of me learning how to rest. I didn't know really how. It was my babies breaking me completely because I had, one, and then I had a preemie and I had a suicidal teen, and all at the same time. And so I literally could not achieve anything in life except wake up in the morning and take care of my kids. And so the learning to rest was key during those times. So anyway, he was like, yeah, you didn't know how to rest back then, remember? And I was like, oh my goodness. And so this Jaguar, he was like, yeah, this Jaguar, that's the part of you that's so intense that would just get exhausted all the time. And so the words he said to me that really impacted me was, I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you. And I just kept, I mean, it just still makes me want to cry, because I think there was a part of me stuck there. Like, I think there was a part of me stuck in that trauma of not just, even though he showed up for me so beautifully and I was so thankful, I think there's a part of me stuck there. So when he brought the black Jaguar in and said, I'm coming for you, I just felt so seen and so loved and so cared for and so integrated. And like that person's not on that porch 12 years ago in Uruguay still, like they're like, oh, we have a future. Like we can we can rest now. We know how to do that now. I didn't know we knew how to do that. When did we learn that? We've learned a lot in 12 years. Come on. So yeah, felt like he was seeking and saving all that has been lost inside of me. Thank you. And yeah, it feels fun and beautiful and tender. I'm glad I had it on video, because I actually just watched the video this morning and got taken back there, because it was hard to get there yesterday when I tried. I think I was too tired. So I'm in. That was more than 2 minutes. I'm sorry. But I'm in.
But obviously it still impacts you physically as well. I mean, it's that powerful and just right at the surface.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thanks.
Who would you like to have go next, Tony?
I'd love to hear from you, John.
So my appreciation story is from a Zoom call yesterday. But you need a little bit of backstory. Appreciation for me often comes with compare and contrast. And so I'm thinking back about the early years of being in the ministry, being a pastor. I was a youth pastor, pastor of a singles group, pastor of a church. And the way that I had been discipled was, it's my job to make it happen. I've got to figure it out. I've got to figure ministry out. And that whole experience was exhausting and stressful and lots of anxiety. So that was kind of my world for maybe a couple of decades. So fast forward to the call yesterday. This is with a guy who is what I call senior leader. He's 69 years old, so a little younger than I am. And he has been a senior leader in one of the largest youth parachurch organizations, sort of like at the really top of this whole organization for years. So an amazing guy, amazing background, knows everyone. And he writes us this email saying, I am reading Relational Revolution and my heart is jumping within me. I'm so excited about what I'm reading. Could we talk? And so we had this wonderful Zoom call yesterday he kind of shared his story and I shared my story. And he said, how do I engage more with this? What if I could just give you power to tell me whatever I need to do, what would you ask me to do? I said, I'd like to recommend that you do Church 101, because it takes it from sort of the conceptual to the experiential. He said, I'm ready to go. Is it okay if I recruit some of my friends to do this? And I guess so. Yeah. So yeah, we'd love to do that. He has some vision for the church that he's in, where he's an elder. He's involved again in some major initiatives toward teenagers. And so the implications of all this would be pretty amazing. All that to say, when I finished the call, I was aware of how, I like the term, almost effortless it was. It wasn't like I had to work really hard and recruit this guy and market and convinced and all that. It just flowed. Jesus doing the heavy lifting. And I felt in my body, I felt peaceful. I just felt a flow, like, God is doing this thing and I just get to play. And I feel so privileged to be able to do that. So I'm excited about, where's this going to go? What's going to happen? I don't know. But it was really fun to get to know him. Said, if you take Church 101, I'd be glad to walk alongside of you and we can talk about implications for ministering to teenagers, all that kind of stuff. So he was excited. I was excited. And so way different from the way it was early on. So I'm in. Fun stuff. Great stories. So we have an agenda. Let's see. I should probably do a screen share with that. Huh? Let's see.
To do that.
Sorry,
I said you could do that.
I could do that. Just so because people watching would have no idea what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, it's been disabled. So somebody else is going to have to do a screen share.
Oh, sorry. I can give you permission. Maybe.
You can
Maybe
share.
I might have to share. I can share.
Go ahead.
All right, let me bring it over. Because it's on a different screen. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. 1, 2, and there we go. Agenda.
Fantastic. So again, for people that are watching, we use Google Drive, and we have these ongoing agendas. So we could scroll down and you could go through literally years of our past history. And each week we spend time looking at this. So we want to take just a minute and look at it and see if you have any things you'd like to change, any things you want to add or highlight, and then we'll kind of see where we start with that. So it looks like some updates on the book launch are there.
Yeah.
Discussion about what counts as church, and working over the grant circle draft proposal. So is that sort of the main thing, Tony, you'd like to see us accomplish today?
Yes, I think the leader team as church question will probably come up as we talk about what counts as congregation, how do we define church, and that is for the grant proposal as well. So are these 2 questions here. So as many of these as we can talk about, listen on today will be helpful, and then the proposal.
Okay.
I think that's our main work today.
So Shannon or Zach, do you have any things you'd like to add or?
Nope, that looks good.
To keep us busy today? Who's going to give us the update on the book? Is that Zach or Tony or?
Zach Man, you want to go?
Zach Man, talk to us about
Do you
the
need
book
the
being
agenda
Relational
back up?
Revolution.
Do you have the agenda? Do you want me to put it back up?
I can open it. I was looking at the screen share, but I can open it also.
I think the numbers are from Tuesday because I haven't looked at it since then.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Tony, did you copy and paste these on Tuesday?
I did. Did I do it
Okay.
incorrectly?
No, looks great.
Okay.
It's all pretty straightforward if you're looking at the agenda. So 316 Kindle, 264 paperback, and that's total since we've launched the book. So we're at 580 total sales between the Kindle and the paperback. Wow.
Great.
Which is $1,086 in funding toward the.
We actually,
Everything-
yeah, yesterday we hit 3 more. So we're at 1,100 and 583 total. Sorry, I did do work yesterday. There we go.
I haven't updated the bestseller updates.
I
They
did.
go up,
I did update that.
fluctuate because of our
on the-
promos, but I don't know if
There
they're
we go.
near 3 anymore.
Yeah, on the 23rd they were. These were from Tuesday. I did all of it from Tuesday.
Oh my goodness,
Yes,
they're still there. Okay.
they were on Tuesday. I don't know if they're still there.
56
Every day
56
changes.
reviews. Yeah, 56 reviews. As of Tuesday, we were at number 3, paperback church growth. Number 5, Kindle church growth. Number 7, Kindle church leadership. And there's probably also a parent category, church and church leadership. But wow, do you know about paperback church leadership? If we're still in the top.
No, it
100?
wasn't easy for me to find. So
Okay.
I thought, well, I'll just leave it for now.
Yeah. Whew. Yeah.
Our
Oh,
sales,
yeah.
of the Audible book showing up yet?
It is showing up. I don't think they post rankings or anything on the audiobook itself. So actually they do. Wow. Wow. We are 94 in Christian church growth, apparently. No, I think those are the books. I don't think that's Audible.
Okay. No
So
big
we
deal.
have dropped today. Every day is so different.
Yeah.
But
The beginning, the first like month, because of the momentum of our launch team and all of our activity, we were staying like around number one or at number one in multiple categories, and
Yeah.
multiple formats. But now that we're over a month out,
I'm going to show y'all, because it could be that was rankings from the Audible. Because, okay, so here we are on the Kindle, right? And y'all are seeing the book, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got number 10 in Christian Church Growth today, 20 in the Kindle store, and number 56 in the books today. So you can see how every single day it's a little different, but still ranking in the top 10 somewhere. But then when I go to the audiobook, those numbers shift. So maybe they do rank us in audiobooks as well. So when I go down there, we see these numbers.
Yep.
So that's kind of fun. And we haven't promoted that at all yet. I mean, we just literally, it went live last week, and we haven't really told too many people about it. So we'll launch it eventually. We'll do a little initiative and launch it. I don't think we have separate paperback numbers when I click on the paperback. I haven't seen those yet. So I think.
Any reactions to those numbers?
Yeah.
How are you feeling about what you're seeing there?
Super encouraged.
Yeah, Tony,
Yeah.
you've had most experience publishing books, so.
Yeah, we've never, I mean, none of my books have ever stayed in the top 10 for longer than like 2 weeks. So the fact that we're like 6 weeks out and it's
Yeah,
still
that's
ranking,
great.
it's exciting. Yeah.
Way to go.
and we are 14 reviews away from bypassing our last book, which we released in March 2020. So we're already almost we already have almost have more reviews than Joy Fueled, which we released over 3 years ago, which is fun to
Incredible.
compete with yourself.
I didn't have this in here for some reason, but just so y'all know, we are running a free promo on our book, Relational Revolution, the 16th through the 20th of June. So it's just 4 days. The Kindle will be free. It's only 99 cents anyway, so it's not like a big deal to make it free, but just in case people don't want to even pay the 99 cents. But what that does is it allows us to promote the book in free sites where they basically have 60,000 people that they send an email to, and they say, hey, this book is free today if you want it. And that way, if there's tend to be answers out there, then they will find out about the book. So that's the point of marking it down, not to actually sell more, but so that people connect with us, that we can find people.
You understand all that, Tony. And then also we're trying to get, if there are people that have podcasts that would like to interview
Yes.
some of us distinguished authors. That they could
Yes. If someone wants to interview us on a podcast, we would love to talk. So.
Okay. Anything else on the book? It's going well. Way to go. Where would you like to go next, Tony?
My agenda just shrunk really small for some reason. I have no idea why.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did want to add one more thing that wasn't on the agenda notes, but because it said next actions, we will be exploring the Amazon ads as well as the podcast interviews are part of sort of like the organic connections strategy. But then we're looking at, I don't know if you've heard back from our coach about if
I'm supposed to do the affiliate link first and the promo first, and then I meet with him in 2 weeks, I think, after I have all that done.
Okay. So anyway, I just wanted to add that in there. Also, that's in the works as our next experiment with this launch. Amazon ads.
And I get to do another course. So I will be educating myself on Amazon ads, which I haven't done yet. becoming a publisher was never in my
No.
my goal list. So I'm quite
Your
quite
bucket
amazed that I can add that to my list of things.
That's right.
All right.
What would you like to do next, Tony? Where do you want to go?
Okay, so I mean I could update on where we are in the grant circle, the context in which we are handing this proposal over to the mission circle and what we need from the mission circle. Maybe kind of an intro orientation might be helpful, and then we can just go with whatever questions we feel like we want to hit first. Does that sound okay?
Why don't you start with, for the sake of people that are watching this who have no idea what we're talking about, why don't you talk about the relationship between the what is the grant proposal circle, sort of a temporary thing as I understand it, and then what's the relationship between that and mission circle?
Yes, that's a great question. I'm actually looking, I think I want to pull up a graph. Kent Smith sent it today in an email, but I have it as well. It's called, did I put it under divine governance? Is that where it is? So Mission Circle oversees the mission of the organization, right? We have long sensed, let me see if this is it. Nope, not that one. This one. We've long sensed that Luke 10, when we formed, really people just started finding us off the internet, right, John? Started finding you, started finding the website. And we started noticing that the people God was bringing were from different cities from all over the world. There was almost like no two in the same place. So it was very interesting. And as we listened around, God, what are you communicating through this? It was almost like we felt like we were hearing God say, I'm raising up mature elders, these houses of peace from all of these different places. I want you to connect them. I want you to equip them because I'm preparing my global bride for an awakening, possibly, where I need mature people on the ground everywhere. So you're going to train these people, connect them together so that they have the support they need to live into the values that of the kingdom. And so we were like, okay, so it wasn't that we weren't local. It wasn't that we were against being local. It was that we were following what Jesus and what God's doing in the world, which at the moment was bringing together leaders from different places online so that they could have communities of practice, so that they could grow their maturity skills and their connection to God and community, so that they can lead healthy heart-to-heart connection as church locally in their families, beginning there first, and then expanding however God grows their expression, which could look very different for every single family. So we're not trying to control how it looks locally, and we don't feel like we're definitely not giving a model for anyone of how this matures and spontaneously erupts in their local environment. However, we are now seeing that it is erupting locally in certain places. Goodness gracious, Julie McKnight's area up in Wyoming, of all places, is, you're like, what's happening? It's so incredible. Greenville, to some degree, was really hot last year too. So we're just watching these movements. And as our people who have trained with us are now going, can you help me implement this locally? Like, love what we do online and love all the training I've received, but I think I need some strategic help. I need some more consistent coaching. So, and Kent Smith, that's his sweet spot anyway. It's what he's been doing in Eden Center. He's doing it right now at a retreat there called Regenerative Culture. It's called more than that, but Shaping Regenerative Culture or something like that. So he's training people in how to be community together and how to think through that intentionally. So, we've been waiting on that aspect of Luke 10 for a long time. We've been kind of holding it off because it didn't seem like anyone was really interested. So as we have this last year, really people have been coming and asking, and we're getting people like the 69-year-old man who are writing in saying, what do I do with this whole community I'm leading right now? And yes, Church 101 is that step, right? But he also needs to process at a different level what he's experiencing, because he's going to be thinking implementation the whole time, right? So how do we accompany people like that who are coming to us in a way that really gives them everything they need? So the Mission Circle decided to give that work to an ad havoc circle, I think is what we called them, or a working circle to develop the idea out. So that is now the grant circle has been formed to develop the idea, flesh out the idea, do our proposal shaping process with the idea. And now we're presenting a very rough draft of an idea that has not been developed for a grant proposal yet at all to the Mission Circle to say, here's where we are so far. Do we have consent? One, what are your questions? What are your reactions to what you're hearing of our listening time and our thinking about this? We still have tons of questions that we haven't listened on yet, and maybe this group would want to listen on some of those questions too and weigh in. So we're presenting this to this group to get your input on the proposal, your feedback on it, help us think through it more clearly. So, and then eventually to consent to, okay, now that y'all have helped shape it, you can now consent to this version of it for developing fully for the grant, if that makes sense.
So process-wise, Mission Circle, this one would be considered what they call a top circle. So there'll be other circles that are processing things, making decisions, listening to each other, to Jesus, and so on. And then key proposals would come here. We would also process that. And so that's what you're seeing happening in this case.
Yeah, I mean, we would call it a parenting circle, probably, because we're not like a top-down approach, because the ideas come from the edges, right? And then we oversee, make sure that they're congruent with our mission. So really, it's kind of a parenting, healthy, in the healthy sense of the word. We're not controlling, but we're releasing, blessing, educing, and maybe helping them think just a little bit about something they might have missed here. So that it can be congruent with our mission, vision, and values.
I'm just using Kent's word that week, but you're right.
He used top? Did he really? Oh, Kent.
That's sort of a sociocracy word. Anyway, doesn't matter. So what would you like from us today?
Great. I think I'd love for someone to repeat back what they heard me say about what I would like from y'all today, because I think I've already said it. So maybe you didn't hear it because I did say a lot. So I will repeat, but if anyone did hear it, I'd love to hear it back.
I mean, I can repeat back what I heard. I didn't have the understanding that it was for in this meeting today. So maybe I missed that, but the idea is that this work of brainstorming, proposal shaping for fully resourcing local places that we're observing Luke 10 values are growing and being appreciated. We've given that work of shaping a proposal to the Grant Circle. The Grant Circle has done a certain amount of work towards that aim and wants to give us those initial thoughts for our reflection and further shaping so that they can write a proposal that this circle will consent to.
I think very close. Thank you. It is so that you consent now that we write the proposal. That, yes, assuming that if you're consenting and adding in at this level right now, that once we get it fully fleshed out, it will be a no-brainer consent. Like, it's not like you'll have a paramount objection, because we want to get the consent now, basically, with your input on this document. And once you consent, then it's like, okay, yeah, flesh it out, write it out, and you're good to go. So if that
Okay,
makes sense.
yeah, that makes sense. That's just not how we originally said it. Some weeks ago, we consented to having the Grant Circle submit a proposal to the Mission Circle that we would then consent as to whether it goes forward or not.
Right,
So
clarify.
it's a little bit of change.
So Kent, if I can address that.
Yeah.
And I hate that he's not here, but he, as we were getting into the process of shaping the proposal, Kent Smith realized, you know what, if we give them a finished product, then
Yeah.
they really don't weigh in on it. Like they don't have any say on it. And that's
Yeah.
not really what we're asking. We really want them to have say on it. And we're like, yeah, we
Yeah.
do. So instead of putting 60 more hours into this to develop a
Yeah.
finished product that then you guys might be like, I don't even agree with this. I don't think this is good, which would be devastating to our organization. We decided, oh yeah, duh, we can give them our ideas so far that we're not going to really add too much to or change drastically when we spend the next 60 hours to finish writing this proposal. This
Yeah.
is pretty much the idea work behind it. The next step is just the implementation work about, finances and things like that. So if we get your consent now and your weigh-in now, then we can include your ideas now so that when we give the finished product, y'all are like, oh yeah, we actually shaped this together.
Yeah.
So
that totally
was,
makes sense.
as we got into it, realizing because this is all new to us, right? Like
Mm-mm.
we've all never done this together. So we're
Mhm.
still figuring out how do we do this stuff in a way
Mhm.
that is best for all of us.
So it's sort of an interim report or proposal that would help, just like you said. So that, if there are questions or things that need to be added or clarified. So I guess the next question would be, what's the degree of familiarity that each of us have with the paper that's been given to us? Is that something you've had a chance to read over, you're pretty familiar with, or do we need to spend more time on that here? Where are each of us on that?
Yeah, that's what I mean. As we've been talking, I pulled it up from the agenda and it's the first time I've seen it. I feel like I would not be prepared to consent to it during this meeting because
No,
I haven't ever looked.
The idea is not that we consent to it in this meeting. The idea is that I am presenting it in this meeting to you guys to talk about. So even if we just read one part of it and discussed it, that consenting to something is a process. And I think that's what I was trying to bring up is the actual divine governance. Let me show you this because I know Kent and John and I are working off of a paradigm that maybe some of us aren't even familiar with about what consenting process looks like and proposal shaping. I can't get this wait, maybe I can get it bigger. Let me try because I know it's really small. Is that helpful? Is that bigger?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get us stuck here by my question because
No.
we've gone over this a couple of times, this exact chart with Kent. And
Shannon, just for the sake of our viewers too, and us, I think it would be helpful because even though we've looked at this, it doesn't mean we've actually ever done it. So I wanted to bring it back up for our safety more than anything and for clarity, because most of our issues happen because we're not clear on what we're doing together. And I don't know how much Zach's really familiar with this either. So I would love to just not walk through this whole sheet at all, but walk through the part that pertains to us. So I don't want to waste our time, but this is where we are, is in the presenting a proposal, and then we work the proposal. So before consent can happen, we work a proposal together. So that's kind of the stage that I'm asking for today and next week. We are on a deadline. So that's where this gets really tricky because we need to have this done by next Thursday. We need to have a consent or a no-go by next Thursday because there's no way we'll have enough time to develop the proposal good enough to submit for grant funding unless we have a 2 weeks to work on it together afterward. So we are on a deadline, but we're working the proposal. So what does that involve? It means clarifying questions. So we present it, we talk about it. You guys ask clarifying questions around everything that you might not understand. Or that you want to understand deeper. We do a quick reaction round. So maybe you're like, that's great. That's your reaction. You don't have any questions at all. So it's either clarifying questions, reactions. And if there are some concerns, then we seek understanding. We amend the proposal. We change it. We can adapt it as we see fit. We revise it. We shorten the terms, whatever. And then we can even get feedback from the other circle. So as we revise things, we would give it back to the grant circle and have them look at it and get their input on what we've revised.
We should get busy doing that, right?
Yeah. So that's where we are, if that makes sense. And we are on a time kind of limit, but yeah, we're just beginning that process. Hopefully next week we can continue working it until we get somewhere enough to present.
Today, you would like us to begin working that through. Is that correct? So you want to pull up the proposal?
Yes, I think so. I've got to find my agenda. There it is. I would like to give just an overview of where we are with it. So you'll see our proposal on there. The grant that we're going for, so the proposal that you're going to be looking at is really Luke 10's heart for what we want to do as far as consulting goes in the world. So when we developed the proposal, we were not trying to shape it to get the Lilly grant at all. We were developing a proposal of how does Luke 10 want to move forward? So even if we don't go for the grant, this will be a proposal that we will continue to look at and shape for us for Luke 10, because it's our what we have listened and heard and reflected on about how we want to do consultancy. How could we do it? What's an experiment of consultancy that might work for Luke 10? Is that clear?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
this could be a proposal that we present to other grant situations, or who knows what.
Personal donors. Yeah. Anyone to get funding for this. Yes. So the Lilly Foundation, specifically, as we have talked about before, is focused on congregations. And they define congregation very interestingly. They include any denomination and any kind of expression, but they also say it has to be a group of people that meet weekly, that worship together, that have teaching, and that serve in community. Okay. So in my mind, as I hear them talk about it, they are definitely thinking traditional, right? A traditional congregation. And we know we are anything but traditional as far as how we define congregation. And in the proposal, we define congregation for ourselves, what we mean when we use that word. And we base that on how our people define congregation, because we did a survey and we surveyed our people and we asked them, who would you consider your congregation? So we're even using some research that we've gathered from listening to our people on how we define this term. So given that reality, last meeting, we were talking a little bit about why don't we actually define congregation very clearly for us and for whatever we do. And could I write the Lilly grant people, that there's 2 people that I would write, and actually let them know this is how we're defining congregation. We would love to submit a proposal to you. Would this qualify under how you define congregation? That way, if they say no, we don't have to take 60 hours of work trying to develop a grant for them, right? But they could come back and say, we've never thought about that before. Our imagination has never been that stretched before around how to define congregation. We think it could work, but make sure you ... right? So it could be a no-go. It could be a go. So that's why I have the question in here, a discussion regarding what counts as church and how we define congregation, mainly for that letter. So it could be that that's all we do today, if we want to do that first, or we could jump into the proposal and do that. And y'all could just say, yeah, draft an email and send it to them. And I could just do that as well. So the other piece that this grant in particular is asking for is, what is our relationship to a Christian denomination or tradition? Do we have one? And we have to tell them the relationship that we have to a Christian denomination or tradition. So that might be the place to start today, because if we don't have any relationship to a Christian denomination or a tradition, then we might not qualify at all. So.
Well, you tell us, Tony, how we can serve the grant writing circle. What can we do today? What would you like us to do?
Well, I mean, I think we are the only ones that can answer that question about a Christian. Do we have a relationship to a Christian denomination or tradition? No one else in our organization can answer that, but you, John and Kent. So I think that's important, because if we really say no, we don't have one, then I'll put that in the email as well and see if that's a deal breaker. And if we do have one, well, that would be great to talk about. So I think that would be important. And if I have your consent to send an email regarding congregation, then we could probably move into the proposal, and y'all could see how we've defined congregation so far, and what you think about the proposal, because the proposal's great. But if we're not going to submit it to Lily, then we're not on a time deadline, if that makes sense. So I think that's the first major question is, do we qualify for them? And I want to get very clear on these issues first, and then the proposal.
Okay, so let's start with the first thing then. Do we have a
Yes. Do we have a relationship to a Christian?
Can I just ask a quick question? Did the grant circle proposal shaping document that's in here, has the grant circle taken a stab at addressing either of those two questions yet, or is that not addressed in that document yet?
The relationship with a Christian denomination, the grant circle has no authority to answer that. So that's a mission circle question. So we punted.
Okay.
And as far as, we did define church congregation in our document. Yes, we did.
Okay.
So we can look at that and talk about it at that point, probably.
Okay.
And they said, when I proposed the email to Lilly Foundation, they thought it was a great idea. I have a draft, but they wanted this circle's weigh in as well.
Mm-hmm.
Zach. Did you?
Are we starting the conversation now? Are we? I have thoughts, questions.
Oh yeah,
about
great.
this.
Go for
Are
it.
we in? Are we doing this now? Yeah. So, first of all, relationship to a Christian tradition is really ambiguous. So I don't know if they clarify that in their document. If Lily clarifies what they mean, does it mean that we need to have that we are, we're a branch of the Assemblies of God or something, or does it mean like people in our community have connections with that's the part that I'm immediately like, how are they defining that? Like what so that we know how to best answer it. Do you know?
As far as I know, they do not define it. I haven't seen it defined.
Okay.
Yeah. Great.
Okay, then my second question is, what obviously we aren't connected to a denominational institution or organization, but like we don't have like a parent company, so I'm thinking about broader traditions that we, for the sake of the endowment, that we can say, oh well, yeah, we don't usually talk about that, but like, is there something that we can say, oh yeah, well, we are is there a broader tradition that we could speak to? That's my question.
Good question.
That's a good idea. Shannon, what's your initial reaction to that question?
I mean, obviously, I would repeat some of the same things that Zach said. We don't have a formal connection. That's part of the beauty of it. But I suppose we could talk about the traditions our people have valued. And, I mean, we're certainly obviously broadly Christian. The people in Luke 10 describe themselves as followers of Jesus. So I don't know, people of the way, if there's like Zach was saying, a broader way to describe that out in the wild, I haven't really seen it, but it's definitely, I like that, Tony, you're trying to get these two things out of the way first, because if it's not something that this particular funding source can, take in, then we don't need to go down that route. But I think answering that question, I agree with Zach. We could use a little more clarification on what they mean. Obviously, denomination is an easy no, but Christian tradition, of course, we have a connection. That that is our tradition, following Jesus. So I don't know how to describe that in a way that might be suitable to them, but
Tony, do you have an answer to that question? Your answer?
No, not at all. I was thinking the founders would probably be able to answer that better than me, but I mean, I wonder when I'm thinking of the issue, I think of a religious order and what what Christian traditions are religious orders related to, right? Because they're not denominational necessarily. So, but I don't even know, how you would define, like I know, like Communitas, our mission organization is a religious order, almost like its own denomination, basically. But but you can't say, well, we're related to ourselves. I mean, so I don't even know what they would say to other mission organizations when they're asking what's your relationship to Christian tradition, based on their slogan, which is like tradition and innovation or something like that. I think they're saying, what's your relation, like, where do you get your Christian traditions from? What source from history would you say, yes, we go back to this order or this, to the monastic order or the apostolic movement, or whatever that tradition might be, that the Franciscan monks. I mean, I don't know what Kent Smith would say, or you. I'm sure we have underpinnings from historical movements like that are traditions in our culture, because they want to see that we're grounded and rooted in something from history, from Christian history, that actually makes sense, right? That we're not just some crazy people out there coming up with these brand new ideas.
Sure.
We have practices, but they're not new, right?
I mean, I was raised my entire Christian life in non-denominational churches that just, were not affiliated with a denomination. And I don't recall ever, even serving in leadership in some of these, being asked in any way, like, how are you connected to, because we always had statements of faith and creeds that every member of the congregation subscribed to. And we don't have that here purposefully. We celebrate diversity. So, I mean, we can't even kind of fall back on. Well, I was trying to relate it to my non-denominational experience. We were always just Calvary Chapel, or we were Grace Community Church, and we were Bible believing Christians. Nobody ever asked, like, how do you connect to the flow of history? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and your point is well made. And I was thinking that creeds, like the Nicene Creed, right? I mean, even our church in Uruguay that was not connected to a denomination, because we housed everyone who believed in God, basically, we quoted the Nicene Creed every single week. Like it was at least a tradition that we were connected to help people realize we are in this Christian tradition. So I don't know, maybe we it's not like we have to list on a website or anything, but for us as a mission circle to say, we assent to the Nicene Creed or to whatever creed we want. And that's the tradition we come from and hold to. I think Kent Smith's voice in this is paramount, obviously, but Zach's hands raised.
I see that hand, Zach.
Oh boy. So I'm at first I was going to say Protestant is sort of like a very broad the Protestant tradition, but I don't even know if that would count, because we if like that would be sort of like in contrast to what Roman Catholicism and some of those. So, and it's like if someone from Roman Catholic Church wanted to learn to listen to Jesus and do church's heart-to-heart connection and integrate it into their, so I don't know if that's it either. And then I'm thinking about the word ecumenism as this sort of broader I don't know. And there's different branches of that term. It can mean a lot of things. So I'm Googling as we're talking, like, what is, so Protestant's probably not right. Although I assume most people would probably, in Luke 10 would probably say they fall in more of like a Protestant something or other, because it's very broad. And then ecumenism, and then the idea of a, like we're saying, the creeds, like the creedal Christianity, a creedal tradition. And so that's where I'm just thinking that's not an answer, but that's kind of where I'm going right now. And my mind is like, what are those? In a lot of ways, we are like this. You said a religious order, and I think we often function in this sort of digital monasticism. And because like our key thing is like these regular spiritual practices, basically in community. And so I don't know. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of throw that out there.
Yeah.
Keep shaping this.
So I appreciate what Jack, you said early on. It's like, what do they mean by this? You know, if we don't understand what they mean. So we have, as best we can, to probably put ourselves in their shoes and not try to figure out from our perspective. We can't fully know that. And that's why I think it's really wise, Tony, for you to write that email. But from their perspective, my guess is that they're thinking more traditionally.
Oh, yeah.
We are, connected. We are part of the Southern Baptist Convention. We are part of the Mennonite denomination, whatever else. And the fact is that we're not even really creedal. We can't definitively say, well, we believe the Nicene Creed. I think the only thing in my mind that we could say that might make sense to them is that we're one of the leaders in the house church movement. Other than that, I don't know that there's any organization that we have any kind of formal connection to. We have people from all kinds of different places, but they may have some understanding of the growing house church movement in the US. So that might be one way to go. And
yeah, that sounds actually.
I know that, but yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that actually lands on me as really helpful. And in the context of being leaders in the house church movement, we could say members of our community come from all denominations. As far as I know, they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you go to
just kind of make it very simple and leave it at that, not try to dig down into really, just make it a matter of fact statement. One thing I learned from a colleague a long time ago was to just say your truth simply and not, over explain yourself or try to get too into the weeds. Just say it as if it's valid, because we certainly believe it is. And maybe that's kind of just using John's statement. We're a leader in the growing house church movement, and our community members come from a broad spectrum of Christian denominations. And
yeah, like I would say an interdenominational collective of leaders, of global leaders, and we make up a movement of a religious order. And the reason I use that word is those terms is because those are traditional terms. Like they understand modality, sodality. They understand local church and movement of religious order, because since the beginning of the church, the Catholic Church, those have been ways people understand all Christian movement. One, local, and two, these orders that go out that are like apostolic orders, which we would call church as well. And that's why Luke 10 is so different, because we don't separate modality and sodality like the church does. But if the church were looking at Luke 10, they would totally say, y'all are a religious order movement, because we are interdenominational, we are leaders, we are renewing the church, and missional, which is what these modalities or sodalities were meant to do, is renew the church. And that's really what we're proposing that we are doing.
They traditionally
for. What you said, John?
They're traditionally connected to somebody. So it's a Catholic order, or it's an Anglican order. And we're not.
And we're an interdenominational order. That's what I would say, because we are made up of all denominations. So we bring all of those traditions into our
So I'm okay with you saying whatever you want to say. I personally think house church will make the most sense to them. Although I know, we don't want to limit ourselves to that. But if we think
I could say originating in the house church movement, because I don't identify with the house church movement. I never did. Even though I was planting churches, the house church movement is something very specific in the United States, I feel like, and I was not part of any of that. So I don't think currently that's our tradition, but I could say that we originated in the house church movement, or came forth from the house church movement, something like that.
overall, I would say good luck. I mean, I don't think any of that's going to make any sense to them, but I hope I'm wrong.
Why not?
I don't.
It doesn't feel like it's going to make sense to them.
Maybe I'll call
either,
Scott Harris and ask him for some coaching on this.
So if they're asking, if they're thinking about safety, like theological safety and accountability, I think is, when someone emails us and they're like, what denomination are you a part of? Because they want to know that we're not a cult or we're not, whatever. So if that's the question we're answering, is there just is there something that makes sense that we can, to help communicate who we are, to help them know that it's safe, but then it's like really clear. It's not like we don't have to change our organization, we don't have to join a denomination, but can we say we're a part of the classic, or I was looking at the Tampa Microchurch Network, and they say we're not part of a denomination, but we're anchored in the historic Christian creeds. And that's kind of that general.
That's beautiful. Anchored in the historic Christian creeds. We don't even have to name which one.
Well, and so I wouldn't put that like on our website, because sometimes people that come to Luke 10, they're like, theology is complex, and they want to have, and we want to have those dialogues and invite them into community and wrestle through those things together. But as far as the Lilly Endowment goes, is that a problem to just say, because we are more or less that's I think if we say house church, it's going to be, there's all kinds of,
let me throw this
kinds of fruits, nuts, and flakes in house church movement.
An interdenominational collective of leaders originating from the house church movement who are anchored in the historic Christian creeds.
Look, I mean, Ken, go ahead and say that. But if somebody says, okay, which creeds?
I'll say the Nicene Creed. I'll come up with a few. We don't disagree with any of the creeds of our
No,
faith.
we don't.
So all of them. I mean, if you have one, John, that you have a paramount objection to, you send it to me, and I will make sure I don't mention that one.
I would say Kent would intentionally avoid.
Okay. Well, that's why we need his weigh in on this. So he's going to see the video, and I definitely won't make the statement until I get his.
What would
his
Ken
go.
intentionally avoid? I didn't hear you, John.
Any kind of a reference to a theological statement or a creed that's spelled out.
Even the historic ones, though. I mean, I understand a reaction to us forming one, totally.
Right.
But assenting to the Nicene Creed, do you think he would have a problem with that?
I don't know. I might.
I can't wait. I wish he were here.
Is it the Heidelberg Creed or the Westminster Confession of Faith?
No, I've never heard of those. So, I mean, I'll get real specific. I'll submit the creeds that I think we can assent to for approval. How does that sound?
It's like, okay.
I mean, because I understand that if we really can't locate ourselves somewhere in the broader Christian tradition, then we don't have any business asking them to give us money.
Exactly.
And that's fair enough. Maybe we shouldn't.
Well, but if we can't nest ourselves into some Christian tradition from history, maybe we shouldn't be doing what we're doing.
I mean, I think we can.
Just saying.
But yeah, but if we can't do it, I also think it's fair enough for them not to give us money to do it.
Yeah. So I will come up with a statement. I will submit it to y'all via email for feedback and consent. if we need to talk about it more, we can next week. I can't wait to hear from Kent on all this, and then hopefully we'll hear back from the Lilly Foundation in a timely manner so that we know whether we should move forward or not with our massive hours of converting this into a real grant proposal.
I think what Kent would say, isn't the Bible enough? But anyway, so for those of you who are watching this, you can see the kinds of things that we go around. Because Luke 10 is so unique. It really is different than anything I've ever been a part of. And so it is very good to kind of categorize or put it in a box or use traditional language. So.
Well, Zach, that could be a little, you're so good at the research, that could be a little Google project for you, because there are all kinds of Bible schools and Bible church traditions that say the Bible is enough and don't, maybe they have some wording that could help us. I don't know.
Have we confused?
You know what we could do? We could chat GPT this.
It's gonna write us a creed.
We're at about 10 minutes after the hour. So we've got 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
So we've totally muddled through this.
Yes, very well.
Question. I don't know if we've helped you.
I like it. It's a hard question. I think it's good to bat it around. Yeah, these are foundational issues. So
good.
So in the next 15 minutes, Tony, what else would you like to do?
So I would love to toss out to you our definition of congregation and muddle through that for a little bit, if that's okay. And maybe there's no muddling at all. Everyone's like, man, sounds great. Okay, but so the way we are defining congregation so far is a collective of vibrant families of Jesus. It could be 2, it could be 500 families gathered. It could be in your place of work. If you are actually running a business and you gather a few vibrant families of Jesus regularly to pray, to listen to Jesus, to check in with each other. If you're doing these 2 rhythms, which we define as vibrant family of Jesus, right? At least 2 people doing 2 rhythms as close to daily as possible. If you're doing that and you're gathering with other vibrant families of Jesus, that's a congregation. You just, boom, it just happened. And it can be in business, it can be in a cafe, it can be in your home, it can be in a traditional church, it can be in even parachurch organizations, which we don't talk in those terms, but obviously they do. The Lilly Foundation does. So we're definitely stretching an imagination, everyone's imagination, on that definition of congregation.
Let's go around on that.
Defining it. So throwing it out, reaction rounds, clarifying questions.
Yeah. Shannon, reactions, clarifications, reactions, thoughts? Like it? Okay. Zach?
I'm unsure if it's going to help the proposal. I'm trying to think about how I want to say this. I don't know what the heck they're looking for exactly. We don't want to write things to please them, but collective of vibrant families of Jesus, I don't know if it hits what that would communicate, the overlap who we are and what they're looking for. I don't know.
Yeah, and that work, we're going to hope that our grant writing team will be able to translate us for if it's a go and they need to take this proposal and make a grant for the Lilly Fund, that will be their job, is translation. They'll need to do the translation work. So our job is just to make sure that we all understand who we are and our concepts, so that they then can do the translation work. Because you can't really translate unless you really understand what the words mean and who we are. So
there's really 2 questions, Zach. Is that definition something you're comfortable with? And the other question is that going to work for these guys? But
or how do we translate it for Lilly? Right.
Yeah. Are you comfortable with that?
If, for example, Luke 10 had a glossary and congregation was one of the words and we defined it like this on our website, what do you think about that? Reaction round, Zach.
Yeah. a collective of vibrant families of Jesus. I think I don't understand the distinction between vibrant families of Jesus and a collective of vibrant. So we're saying multiple families, but we're not using families in a nuclear family. We're talking about it as spiritual family. So we have two distinct
and.
spiritual families that come together.
Both and yeah,
That-
yeah. I mean, it could be a nuclear family, right? It could be my family and your family. My kids, my husband and me, you, your wife, and your 5 kids. Those are 2 nuclear families who actually are vibrant families of Jesus too, coming together to practice our rhythms. We would be a congregation.
Right.
Just
right.
because we gather everywhere and anywhere. It's so difficult. Yes, Shannon.
The definition assumes that we've also defined vibrant families of Jesus elsewhere. I was assuming that we're not just throwing that out there blank, but that we describe what each of those words mean. I mean, we know them ourselves, but if we're using this as a definition, a collective of vibrant families of Jesus, we're not going to just say that, is my assumption. We're going to define what we mean by vibrant family and Jesus, just like we do in Church 101.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, in our glossary, that is defined already very clearly.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
And
for now. Go ahead.
I mean, I just guess my further question was, we're distinguishing congregation from church. Right?
Yes.
Because we say that church, a valid expression of church is 2 people. It doesn't require a collective. But a congregation, we're now saying requires a collective. And I'm good with that. I just want to make sure that's what we're,
Yeah.
This is really hard to do in a couple of minutes because it gets into like ecclesial minimums. It gets into what's a valid church versus congregate, like the 2 words. So this is hard for me to be like, yeah, I don't have any objections. It's just like when we're getting into the terminology and underlying framework, I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I want us to take action today where we can to move this forward.
Right. Yeah, it's almost like we play rugby, other people play football, and we're trying to translate rugby into football and and use their terms for this other game. And so it is very interesting. It's very interesting. And maybe we can't do it at all, right? But maybe we can, maybe we translated it for the US government to bring Dennis here, and they might actually accept it. So we can translate ourselves into traditional church language. It's just highly uncomfortable for us because it doesn't fully express who we are or our thinking on these things, even because we would use these terms to begin with.
Right.
Like I'm thinking about other organizations that use minimum, like church minimum, ecclesial minimums, like Tampa Underground Microchurch. They say it's a group of people that participate in worship, community, and mission. And I wouldn't even say that because those are so broad. But for Luke 10, I might say like a group of people that gather regularly to connect heart to heart and follow Jesus together or something. Like I'm thinking of ways that are specific. I think it's a specificity that I'm interested in. But what do you need today, Tony?
Well, just to comment on that one more thing, because I think this is huge for Luke 10 as we go local and as we implement. Okay, because even what you said from the underground microchurch, we're a community that. What did you say?
I think it's like a group of people that participate regularly in worship, community, and mission.
Right.
Those are 3 things: worship, community, mission.
So that's not who Luke 10 is, because we're a community that has churches of 2. I think this is the biggest deal for me, probably John as well. We're not a community that gathers together once a week or once a month or whatever and does these things together. We're a community that lives church every single day, every day, with at least one other person. And it's only, for us, effective if that's happening And
Right.
then we gather more of those people together.
Right,
If
right.
other people aren't doing that, I don't even want to call it anything. Like,
Yeah.
I know there is a level of belonging that happens where people can come even if they're not practicing church every day. I get that. And that's my dinner table, or maybe it's an event that we have, but at the core of our DNA is that we are practicing church of two as close to daily as possible. And I think that is what everything else is missing. And I think that when they grab our rhythms, they take our rhythms and put it in their weekly meeting and forget to put it into their daily lifestyle. And it's not going to work, because it's a growing of relational skills that has to happen. I'll stop.
Couple of comments and a prediction. Zach, here's my definition of church. 2 or more people called together by Jesus, living life under his leadership. Second, I don't really like the word congregation because it has so many implications. I'm totally okay with you using it. I understand we're trying to use their language. Congregation, it has particular meaning of like a church.
Yeah.
I don't think it's really what I would rather use community of vibrant families of Jesus, but I understand you may have to use congregation to fit ourselves into their definitions. And my prediction, I hope I'm wrong. I think it'll be the same response that we had at the Leadership Network, where they look at you and say, I have no idea what you're talking about. I hope I'm wrong, but I think that's what will happen. So, but go for it. Go for it. See what happens. Not going to hurt anything.
I will try to draft an email then. And I will include you guys in on the Google Doc so you can weigh in on it, add comments, and I'm going to try to get this out by Monday if possible. So, so that we can have a turnaround, maybe all of us together by Tuesday. So when you get the email, it'll probably say urgent, time sensitive. Just look at it, interact with it as you can. And then on Tuesday, I will try to send it to the Lilly Foundation. How does that sound as a proposed deadline? Sure,
that's fine. Is it important for us to go through the rest of?
Yeah. So for you guys, if you have time before our next meeting next week to look at the proposal and think through it. Sometimes if you read something before hearing about it, you might be reading it non-relationally. You might be reading it with a critic there instead of a playful spirit who wants to collaborate and create together.
I would never do that. I would never.
So I'm going to ask you, if you do read this before next week, that you do your appreciation stories beforehand, or your, relational circuit exercises, please, because we need your collaboration and your creativity, as hard as that might be. So please engage with it at that level, thinking, how can I play? Because again, this is not for the Lilly Foundation. This is for Luke 10, for how we want to move forward together with the 69-year-old man, John, that you're already doing it. So I love that God brought you someone already and dropped him in your lap, because that's how we see them coming. It's how we see bringing them. And we talk about that in there. We're not going to go door to door to churches and try to sell this. We're thinking that they're going to come. And so what do we do with them when they come? And you're already doing it. You met with them with an intro call, kind of already, to discern his needs. You suggested Church 101 as a starting place, which we would do, and it's in here. And then you're going to meet with him weekly or however often to kind of do some implementation coaching with him along the way. That's exactly what we're proposing. So not taking a ton of your time, but it is worth it. And then if he decides, I want to take this to my entire organization, well, we have some other options on there as well to offer.
So just to clarify, when you say when we meet next week, you're talking about the
yeah. We have a finance circle meeting next week, but we will need to talk about this next week because, like I said, if we're going to move forward with developing, hopefully we'll hear back from Lilly. But if we're going to move forward with this, we have to start on the 6th of June. Like, we have to get it going, because otherwise
so we'll talk about it in finance circle next week.
Yes, unless we can convert finance circle into mission circle and have Zach with us, because I would love to have Zach with us on this. But Zach might be busy. He might not even be able to.
You want to meet with us next week, Zach?
you might be heading off to,
That
Yeah.
might be the day we're leaving.
yeah,
I can try. I'll let you know.
I think it might be. Yeah, all right.
We
let's,
are 25 after the hour. We should do a closing round, reflecting on all the incredible progress that we've made today, or whatever else Jesus would like us to know. So take a few seconds to quiet and do your reflection.
Mm.
I feel I'm excited and honored to be in these conversations. And I'm thinking of the words progress and muddling through, I think, John, you said. And I was thinking about my yard, because we are in the process of digging up old gardens from the previous owner and planting new things. And it's like, it does not look like progress most days. I don't like doing the kind of work that doesn't feel like progress. And it's just like piles of junk everywhere, like dirt. There's a big uprooted tree next to my garage right now, and but I know it is, and so it's like progress and muddling through are at the same time. We have to do the work of muddling through, and especially with these high level conversations. So anyway, I'm saying I'm feeling honored and excited to be in these muddled high level conversations, because they're important and will eventually look like the manicured yard. Maybe we'll see. Yeah,
That's good. Muddled. That's your check-in word today. Muddled.
Yep.
Corporate muddle or community muddle.
I enjoyed our conversation today. I think it's good stuff. And this is the place where we're supposed to talk about it. So I just go, this is the work we're supposed to be doing. And that is, it's enriching, it's deepening, it's inspiring, it's, piques curiosity. And then as I paused, I also heard Kent and Matt, my husband, and then Kent Smith, are both historian buffs. They're both like, they think at the 70,000 foot level or whatever. I don't. I think you do too, Zach, a little bit, but and they make connections that are so profound that I would never even think about. So I thought, I can't wait to hear Kent on this, and I need to talk to my husband about this too, and hear from Matt on this. He used to be in this mission circle for a while, and he still consults constantly. I consult with him constantly. So I think God was just going, hit your husband up. He's pretty awesome, Tony. And I'm like, yeah, it's okay. I'll talk to him too. So super fun.
One thing that stood out to me was I really enjoyed when John said he prefers the word community to congregation. And I'm wondering if when we ask Lily, we define ourselves as a community. We don't define ourselves as a congregation. Is that still okay with you? Maybe that.
The whole grant is called Thriving Congregations.
Yeah, but can't it be thriving communities? I don't know. Anyway, that stood out to me.
Good question.
I like it. I think it's I loved this conversation. I think it's great for us to have, stunning clarity, as people say, on who we say we are. And I think it's a valid exercise to try to translate ourselves to other lanes, when it's needed. It doesn't change who we are. If we need to translate who we are into words that others can understand, I feel that's fine.
Good. I think for me, I'd say, first of all, I love that we can have these kind of conversations and remain relational. We're trying to work through challenging things, but we stay connected with each other, and I think that's the most important thing.
Hmm.
The other thought I have is, let's see, I graduated from seminary like 50 years ago. So I've seen a lot of stuff. I've read a lot of church history and seen a lot of organizations. I think Luke 10 is really quite unique.
Yeah.
If there's anything that I know of that is quite, I mean, you could talk about it's an order, it's a movement, whatever.
Mm.
I think it's an animal that's kind of unlike anything else.
Mhm.
And I wonder, it's hard to kind of describe it for people, especially organizational people on the outside.
Mhm.
People have to come and taste it to really have
Mhm.
any clue as to what this, it's just hard to get their brain around it. So
Yeah.
I respect the circle that's working on this stuff,
Mm.
because it's hard to kind of figure out how do you,
Mm.
it's not like rugby and football. It's more like rugby and Easter egg hunts, or fixing dinner and football, or they're just so different. So anyway, but thank you.
Can I add one quick reflection to what you said, John? As you know, as the founder of Luke 10 and as an Enneagram 8 who tends to, as 8s tend to really value power and control and all of those things, the fact that you come away from a hard conversation like this saying your favorite part is that we remain relational really blesses me, because other 8s would want to guard what they started and would want to define it in their own terms, and would really have a hard time opening their hands and releasing it into a circle who might be hashing out these definitions. So I really appreciate that about you.
Thank you. God can redeem even 8s. I guess so. I'm on the road. Some days I do better than others. Anyway, just want to thank everybody who's watched this group. Hope you're not totally confused, but it does give you a flavor of what life in Luke 10 in the mission circle is like.
Yes. If you want to fund this organization, go to lk10.com/live in our craziness and our uniqueness. And if you want to join us and shape this thing, please do. There's signups on our website for how to get involved. I think that's it.
Thanks.
Thanks, you guys. Love you all.